Today I will present the 14 habits of highly productive developers, including tips by developers from Amazon, Google, Adobe, and Microsoft. The author, Zeno Rocha, also created the famous theme Dracula. It's really an awesome theme, and if you didn't try it, you should try it. The first habit is look for the signals. You might know the feeling when you're learning a new framework and you scroll through Twitter or YouTube, you will find a video about why your framework or language is trash. So then we start jumping to the new hot thing, the new hot framework, and especially in the JavaScript world, this is all too familiar. We call this FOMO, fear of missing out. And the author, Zeno, presents us YOMO, joy of missing out. So instead of having all this fear you don't know yet, you cherish what you know. So you might have learned React and you instantly want to start to jump to the new framework, Svelte for example. But when you practice joy of missing out, then Svelte might not be the right decision for you right now. We should be happy with what we already know. That doesn't mean you should be all complacent and do nothing. There will always be new technologies. And that's why you need to find a balance between deepening your knowledge and also learning something new. Habit 2, focus on the fundamentals. You can practice shooting 8 hours a day, but if your technique is wrong, then all you become is very good at shooting the wrong way. Get the fundamentals down and the level of everything you do will rise. Michael Jordan. I need to confess, I'm a really bad example of this. I actually jumped straight into React development. I didn't know a lot of JavaScript and I was even worse in HTML and CSS. It made my life a lot harder and I will tell you why. So when I got to my second internship, they would be using a PHP framework which is called Laravel. They used a templating engine called Blade. They would be using server-side rendering. So they would not send JavaScript to the client to figure out what to do with it, but they would actually send the pre-rendered HTML. I read the documentation and I knew how to use it. In my head I had so many questions like, why are we writing PHP code in HTML? Where is the front-end framework? Why is the backend in the same repository as the front-end? How can we send PHP code to the client? These were all a result out of me not knowing the fundamentals. I did not know a lot about HTTP requests, about server-side rendering, and these are all basics which you should know as a front-end developer. Don't be like me and learn your fundamentals. Habit 3. Teaching equals learning. If you want to master something, teach it. The more you teach, the better you learn. Teaching is a powerful tool to learning. Richard Feynman. So teaching equals learning. I think we all know this. It's a question about how to apply it. I think one of the best things you can do when you're introverted as a programmer is write blog posts. That way you don't have to show your face, you can only focus on the written content. And that way you can distill what you learned into a page and share it with the world. So I was a little bit bolder back then. When I learned Vue on my second internship, I wanted to make my learning process quicker. So I searched up Vue courses in Udemy in German and I would see no courses. And that's why I decided, holy shit, there's such a huge niche. I'm gonna be rich, I'm gonna make a Vue Udemy course. So keep in mind, I had no professional developer experience and I just learned Vue 1 week ago. So anyways, I made this basic to-do app together with my mentor. Then I repackaged it, rewrote it myself, and then recorded the process and uploaded it to Udemy. Now, to my surprise, it even got some good reviews. Now, I'm not saying you should do a Udemy course, you probably shouldn't, but what I'm saying is that way I learned very, very, very fast. Habit 4, be boring. So currently we are living in a hustle culture.
Imagine not doing anything fun or going anywhere for the next 8 years, including Saturday and Sunday.
It's more about showing how much you work and less about the work itself. I don't know about you, but every time I program more than I know I should have, I always introduce new bugs to the code base. Now that's not an excuse for not pushing when there is a close deadline, but when there is always a close deadline, you should be asking yourself if that is serving yourself and the team. Zeno presented finite games with infinite games. So in finite games you have rules, like for example, let's say Fortnite. In Fortnite you will spawn in a bus and you can decide where you jump off, then you will loot some weapons and you will probably kill some people and or survive, and when you are the last survivor you will win the game. In infinite games on the other hand, you don't really know which players will come and go, the rules can be changed all the time and it always goes on, thus the name infinite. So no one really knows who's the best at this, or can you claim the spot of the best developer. Now problems arise when a finite player is playing against an infinite player, because the finite player is playing to win while the infinite player is playing to stay in the game. Now I will quote from the book, programmers who are playing the finite game are focused on their bonus at the end of the year or waiting for that freelance project to end. whereas programmers who are playing the infinite game are less worried about intensity and more focused on consistency. They don't know exactly when they will see results. In fact, different people will show results at different times. An infinite game, for example, would be diet. Now, you set yourself a goal, which would be, I don't know, 60 kilograms. And when you reach the 60 kilograms and you treat it like a finite game, you would just drop everything you learned, every habit you acquired, and then you would gain all the weight back. So that's a very good example for an infinite game. When you want to lose the weight, you have to be comfortable with choosing a lifestyle. Habit 5. Do it for your future self. You program a feature and you will need to use some older code, and in this older code you encounter a bug which costs you like 3 hours. And now you're thinking, which dumb ass wrote this code? And you check GitLens to see who wrote it, and it's actually you. So the problem is that we write code always for our current self, and we assume everyone else or our future self will have all the context which is needed. So I would do this myself. I would write big one-liners and not declare any variables. And no one could actually read it, but I was very proud that I accomplished optimized code. So Zeno says this: don't try to be clever, don't try to code something to make you feel smarter. You don't need to show off all the new tricks you just learned. Just write readable code. Think about maintainability and use meaningful names for your classes, functions and variables. Next time you start developing, ask yourself this question: will the future me understand the intention of this code? Habit 6. Your 9 to 5 is not enough. So this one might be controversial, but I think it's true. If you want to be exceptional, you will still need to work outside of your 9 to 5. Now for some, programming is just something where they earn money, and for some, we would even do it when no one would be paying us. Either way, if you want to have an exceptional career, you will have to put in the time outside of your work. But be careful of what you sacrifice. You don't want to lose your wife just because you coded too much. It's a fine line between pushing yourself and allowing yourself to rest. And every one of us have to find it. Habit 7. Master the dark side. We often think about us developers like the light side, where everything is open source, we are not mad when someone copies our code, and we try to give away most things for free. But the reality is not all black and white. It's hard to question people with authority. But trust me, a good manager will always appreciate it. It's not only to understand why and if this feature is needed, but it's also easier for you to implement the code. If you know this is only a temporary solution, you can write less cleaner code, and there's nothing worse than the feeling of working on a feature for 2 weeks, meeting the deadline with over hours and crunching just to know that the user doesn't even care at all. And this happens more often than you think. And it's by not understanding what Zeno calls the dark side. The business side, the money-driven, pushy character side. Habit 8. Side projects. If you are just starting your career, side projects can be a tremendous opportunity to grow your portfolio, build a resume and showcase your skills. You can read many books on any particular subject, but there's nothing like getting your hands dirty, and side projects can be that sandbox for you. What if you're not a beginner and you want to make money with your side project? Zeno got us covered. Ask yourself following questions. Do I really enjoy the subject, field, type of work? Am I willing to spend at least 5 years working on this idea? Can I execute this idea fully by myself? Is this particular idea better than others I had in the past, or is there any other idea that could better use my time? So you can work around these questions when you answered one of them with no. For example, if you cannot do it fully by yourself, then maybe consider outsourcing it. And when you don't think you have any better idea, you can ask yourself following 2 questions. Do I personally experience this problem? Or am I solving it for someone else? Now, this one is very important. Working 2 years for a problem which actually doesn't exist will hurt you a lot. So make sure the problem you're solving is the right one. And the last question, why am I excited about this idea? I love this section of the book. It clearly communicates the business side, and honestly, there's nothing much to add for me. Habit 10, active listening. Conversations are typically bidirectional, but it doesn't mean you should speak all the time just for the sake of speaking. One misconception many people have is that we need to listen to reply, whereas in reality, we need to listen to understand. Understanding someone is far more important than replying to someone. Anyone can reply, few can understand. So this is true for development, but also for all areas of life. Everything we do is made with humans and for humans. And not speaking the language will put you at an insane disadvantage. I was a big introvert and I have been hiding from everything until I was forced to earn money because me and my girlfriend couldn't afford rent anymore. So I became a cashier at an e-cigarette store, and it was also required for me to sell products to people. Now at first it was very scary, but after some time I would notice what people really want when they said something. Instead of pushing my favorite products to them, I would hear what they really wanted and thought of a way to fulfill their desire. And That way it became so much easier to sell products. And in the end, I had even fun doing it. Habit 11, don't underestimate. We all dread this one question. How long will this take? And if you're like me, you will always get it wrong. Then you start being late, your manager pushes on you, asks every 10 minutes if you're already done, and your deadline is already 2 weeks ago because you massively underestimated your task. There is no hiding from it, so how can we best answer this question? Zeno presents us with the following things why our estimation might be wrong. We want to impress others. I think every junior has this problem. Because we are new, we are trying to prove to other people and then massively underestimating how long it would take us. We forget it's not all about coding. So when I switched from a startup to a big company, I was shocked on how many meetings I have. So in the startup I had about 4 meetings, and in the big company I suddenly had like 16 meetings a week. We don't focus on one thing. We probably have multiple projects and it's hard to context switch, and we think everyone is the same. This might be more for the manager or a tech lead. Just because Joey took 2 weeks doesn't mean that Sam will also take 2 weeks. There are different people with different skill sets, so they will take different times. And the last one, we can't handle the pressure. The tech lead or manager might be pressured from deadlines they have, and they're transferring this pressure onto you, and it suddenly is very hard to say no. This is all very complicated already, and not only that, but we have to account for hidden bugs, people leaving, sick time, and also the best one, requirements changes from higher ups, and with this way you will never 100% be right with your estimation. A very helpful tip from Zeno is that you and the project stakeholders are on the same side of the table. Rather than negotiating, you should find a solution together. 90% of the time when I multiply by 2, it will actually be the right estimate. Or you will be under-promising and over-delivering. Habit 13. Control your variables. With the recent pandemic and now also the war going on, it's easy to let yourself go and doom scroll on Twitter or Reddit. This will take a toll on you. When you're getting bombarded by bad news, it's very hard to stay focused. However, we need to be mindful of what we can control. And as software engineers, we are used to controlling our entire environment. So you don't like this function name, you change it. You don't like the value of this type, you change it. Change data types, you can change the class, you can change everything. But most of the variables in real world are not changeable, such as the weather, the economy, what people think of you, and how people treat you. So to try to change these are a waste of time and will yield no results. Remember on what you can control. Your thoughts, your habits, your diet, your sleep, and how you spend your time. These are all things you can control, and you should take advantage of them. If you paid close attention, you will notice that these were only 11 habits, and there were actually 14 habits listed on the book. And if you want to read these last 3 habits, you will have to get the book by yourself. Let's support the author who wrote an awesome book. And even better, if you like Dracula, you can get the book for free when you buy the Dracula Pro Pack, where you also get the super cool Dracula Pro theme and much more features. I purchased the Dracula Pro Pack because it was really awesome, and honestly I just wanted to support Zeno for making such an awesome book. So thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more book reviews like that, then consider leaving a subscribe. Otherwise we will see us in my next video. Thank you so much.